Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Life's Black Belts. This is your host again, Eric Alders. I am joined today by another awesome guest that I had a privilege of speaking onto the phone a few weeks ago, and I'm really excited to bring her on the show today. So a little brief introduction. Today's Life's Black Belt is Candice Bakx-Friesen. She is a successful real estate entrepreneur. But I'm also bringing her on the show because she manages 4 businesses, 4 children, a family life, and maintains a lifestyle in which we like to promote on the show. Again, if this is your first time listening, or hopefully you've listened to others, it's my goal to utilize my experience as a martial arts instructor and owner and use a comparison of that as a parallel with life, how we all have our successes, our triumphs, our failures, how we get past that every day, and how we become the people that we are, how we think the way that we think, and how we stand out trying to just do our best every single day. So I look forward to highlighting her story and hope that it inspires you as well. So without any further ado, let's introduce today's guest, Candice Bakx-Friesen. How are you, Candice?
Great. Thanks so much, Eric, for the opportunity to chat today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show as well. And I want to just start off by asking how your morning's going. You know that I always love when I get to speak to people all over the country, but every once in a while I get to be blessed by speaking with people from another country, which is happening today. You're joining us from the west coast of Canada. Did I get that right?
Central. Yeah.
Central. Sorry,
Yep.
Central Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to get that right.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So I live in Manitoba, which is just above Minnesota and North Dakota. So kind of right in the middle of the country. And nice sunny morning today, but expecting snow soon. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking to you from New Jersey, and our fall pretty much skipped over us. We went from a hot summer to about 35 degrees. I don't know where it fall, but I'm hoping we get a little fall back before it gets cold. But I can't complain because I do have a friend that lives in Ottawa. So when I'm telling him it's like 10 degrees outside, he's usually telling me it's like negative 25. So I can't really complain from what you guys deal with. So one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on is that I believe there's many people that are out there that stand aside from just the celebrities in our world that always get highlighted. They get to seem to get all the attention in the world because they have, TV and radio, and they have an audience. But doing what I've done my whole life, I've met so many amazing people. And one thing I love is just conversation, putting your phone down, you're waiting to get your oil changed, and there's someone next to you, you strike up a conversation. Before you know it, you learn all these amazing things. And there's just so many people doing so many great things out there. I feel like a lot of us just struggle daily, feeling like we're the only ones going through our problems of balancing it all out and trying to figure out how to navigate this world. And you seem to, to have some insight on that. And, your forte right now happens to be real estate. Is that something that you always saw yourself getting involved with as a young child, or did that come to you later in life?
You know what? Like my parents were not involved in real estate whatsoever growing up. And so when I met my husband, we were dating, and he had 2 rental properties already. And so that was kind of what sparked it, I guess. I was like, well, tell me more about this real estate thing. And so his parents had a few rental properties. And so his dad said, okay, before you blow money on crazy things that teenagers do, purchase a rental home. So he was still living at home and had decided to do this. And, with hands shaking, was signing mortgage documents. And he's like, oh, Dad, but things can happen. And he's like, it'll be fine. It'll all work out. And sure enough. And so he bought 2 rental properties kind of back to back when he was in his late teens. And so when I met him, he already had those properties. So, when I speak to real estate investors, I say I'm married with benefits. He already had 2 rental properties, which is kind of cool. But so then we, it just sort of made sense to me what he was doing. And so that was kind of our goal, was to just keep doing that. So it's been a slow and steady wins the race. And so we've been slowly investing in rental properties. So I went and got my Bachelor of Commerce, and I was going to become an accountant and not have any kids, not get married, just be this career-focused woman. And obviously things changed, having 4 kids now, but and a great husband. But so then that completely sort of shifted when I met him, and I decided to go into something that was different than accounting. And I was a mortgage broker for a little bit, and then I became a real estate agent. And I think just that love of the business itself, having the control to determine how far and how well I'm going to do in life. Being self-employed was also really important to me, instead of waiting to be promoted, which, there's nothing wrong with that, but just not fitting my personality. And so, melding those two has just been wonderful.
So speaking about your personality, take me back a little bit. Did you grow up in a big family? Do you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
I have two younger brothers.
Okay.
We were raised with an entrepreneurial background, so that's definitely where it came from. So my grandparents came as first generation immigrants. They came in the 1950s, fleeing through World War II. My grandpa's family got separated, and he was at a finishing school when the whole thing sort of happened, and so he just kind of left, not knowing what to do at 14, 15, and ended up, that he made his way across to Canada, and later ended up finding his parents, and his one sister ended up, we think, probably dying in a concentration camp, but she was never found through all of it. So, so they came a little bit earlier, and then my other side, my grandparents came after the war, sort of late 50s, early 60s, and both sides, were into farming and, again, entrepreneurship. And so I think that having that influence directly in your life, that was a big thing for me. So my grandma definitely is like my hero in life. And she just was always saying, like, you know what, Candice, we're working hard to give you opportunities. And so I think that's continued on with my parents and now us, that, that's my main why in life. And I think it's really important to figure that out. Everybody needs to figure out their why. But for me, it's, just to be able to give those opportunities to my kids. And, if they want to buy a business one day, that we can help them do that, right? Or whatever it is that ends up becoming their why in life. So
I love that. Where
That's
did your family migrate from, may I ask? Because I have a similar story on my mother's side. My mother's parents were from Poland.
Okay.
And my grandmother on my mom's side, they actually got out prior to the war. However, my grandfather's family were not quite so lucky, and they actually were there during the Holocaust. And unfortunately, my grandfather witnessed a lot of his family members getting killed in front of him, and ended up in jails, and eventually got rescued and escaped and migrated to the U.S. and also grew up with a lot of pride and where we came from and how to live our life going forward. So it's slightly similar to what you were mentioning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my grandparents on my mom's side came from what was Yugoslavia at the time. And so just made their way up north, and then I think came across through France. And then my grandparents on the other side are Dutch. So like Bakx, it's a Dutch name. So yeah. And I think there's something to be said for that immigrant. There's something with, even immigrants now, right? As a realtor, I'll have people who are like, oh, I can't buy a house and it's so hard. And, and then I'll have a family from, let's say, the Philippines who, will rent a house out to the man. He'll stay here for 3 to 4 years, sending money back to his family, meanwhile saving and bringing them back here. And within a few years, that family can be buying a house, right? And there's something to being an immigrant, or, they call it sometimes the immigrant advantage, but just having that drive, that, I think that we end up getting a little bit complacent in general.
Right. Well, they usually you're usually changing countries to look for something better.
Yeah.
And I guess often, if you come from a decent, upbringing and home, that it is easy to become complacent and just be thankful for what you have. But sometimes it's just, you expect it to be there.
Yeah.
And I know growing up, a lot of times my grandfather especially would, I want you to eat. And I'm like, I'm full. No, I want you to keep eating, because there was days I went weeks without eating. The fact that I could provide you food, I just want you to appreciate how lucky you are. And it would always just reinforce the basics that we all, you could walk over to the sink and pull it open and there's water there, what about people that have no idea where water could be found for days? So
yeah,
exactly. I agree with you on that. What about, you said you had two younger brothers, and you seem to be a very focused woman. So did becoming a older sister and having that leadership role, I often find that siblings that are the oldest in the family, my wife is the oldest of her two sisters. I'm the baby of the family, but I find the older siblings usually take on leadership roles early on in life because of that setup. Did you find that as well in your
Yeah.
dynamic?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's very common. Yeah, I see that all the time too, even with my own kids. The oldest one just naturally has these leadership qualities that I can see already. And, I'm constantly getting that feedback from teachers or coaches, or, he's just this calm, naturally confident leader. Yeah.
So then growing up, you said you had a different idea with school, that you were going into commerce, and you originally had an idea of just, being a career focused non-family woman. Where did that mentality develop? Was that growing up through your schooling and experiences where you were very focused on what you wanted to do, or how did those opinions come about? I mean, they've obviously changed. We'll get to that, but
Yeah.
why did you originally think that way?
I think that, yeah, I only had one aunt that was close by to where we lived, and she was an accountant. So that's definitely where it came from. And, yeah, so I think just seeing her be very successful, and I wanted that too. She didn't have kids, so maybe that was part of it. But I just, yeah, from very early on, I was always like, hey, what's next? Like I was always looking forward to, okay, elementary's almost done, then I'm in junior high, and then I'm going to be in high school. And in high school, I was like, oh, can I just move into university already? Like I was always sort of looking ahead. And as it's a little bit nerdy, but like as a grade 7 or 8 kid, I was already looking at personal finance books and studying all this different stuff. So I think it's just sometimes in you.
Yeah, I would imagine, because that's not something a seventh grader would be looking at
Yeah.
all. I have twin daughters that are in seventh grade, so they have no interest in finance books. Although thankfully they're doing very well in school. Were you an astute student as well? Did you end up in honor societies, A's, or were you average?
Yeah, no, yeah, I was a good student. I would say not naturally. Like I've got a good friend of mine. He's a lawyer, and he could read through his university books once, and it just stuck. But I definitely had to work on it a lot more. I think that's really important in life too. We tend to look at. I was reading this book called Grit, and I totally agree with it. But it just talks about the fact that we often look at those people who are naturally talented, and we say, oh, look at them, they're natural at singing, they're a natural at hockey, right? If they go into hockey at 4 or 5 years old, and you can see the ones that stick out right away, that they're just great at hockey, they're naturally talented, and we celebrate those people. But yet they're the ones that often won't get as far, or if they do, it's not the natural talent that gets them there, right? It's that determination and working hard. And so I think that's a big part of it. And we just have to really recognize that, we can, if we're not naturally good at something, that we can get there, but it's just going to take that time. And, if you aren't naturally talented, then you're going to have to work that much harder. And then that's what ends up getting you the success.
Well, I agree. I mean, it's a lesson that we talk about all the time, doing what I do, but it's just a lesson I think everyone has to understand, because I think generally humans in general just tend to just judge the entire situation around them, and they compare a lot. I know I do, and a lot of people I speak to. You see people that have reached levels of success, or you see these natural talented people in whatever field they happen to be in, and you look at them and go, I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be in shape like that, or that smart, or I don't have the time. I don't know. For some reason, we seem to be a group of people that like to make excuses a lot, or make things harder than it seems. And people that look in and do what I do, or I'm sure look at you do, and try to say, well, how do I reach the limit? And they're looking at you and seeing you at, not that you're at the end, but they're seeing you at a level of success, and they just want to jump to that. And what they're not seeing is the years of hard work and failure and struggle that it took to get there. And it's like, just show up each day, keep committed. If you stay at something long enough, you're bound to get better at it. So you just can't just throw your hands up in the air and give up before you even begin.
Yeah.
But you seem like you were very determined. I mean, there's a few things in my life I was like that with, but I would have to say martial arts is the one thing that I stayed very zeroed in and focused on. And now, as you entered into the university, is that when your mind started shifting a little bit more towards real estate, or that was only when you met your future husband?
Yeah, like we got married young. So I always say almost 20, but I was 19
Okay.
when we got married. Yeah, so we got married
Wow.
young. Yeah,
And how
yeah,
long were you dating? Because my wife and I actually just celebrated like our dating anniversary of 20 years. We're
yeah.
married for 16. So we were 19 and 21 when we met. But we dated for a few years. I mean, we're engaged for a few years, then got married. But getting
Hmm.
married at 19, when did you guys
Hmm.
meet?
When I was almost 18. So we dated for just over a year, and then, yeah, it was like kind of the same thing with my personality. So are we doing this? Are we serious? Are we not? Are
Right.
we, yeah,
You're
or
like,
yeah.
let's get to this. If I'm getting engaged, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
When's the wedding? I'm gonna have kids, and I want to get the kids 401k put aside. And
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
So I had to
So,
finish university first.
okay.
But yeah, then again, I was like, okay, well, I don't know if this accountant thing is quite exactly what I want to do, and, sitting in a cubicle all day. So then I went into banking, and then after that, went into mortgage broker,
Right.
and yeah.
So, what was your family's response? I know how, family and friends around me responded. Even at a young age, we got engaged. I said like a year later. So I
Yeah.
was 22 and she was 20 or 20.
Yeah.
So everyone, a lot of our friends were supportive, but there was a lot of people like, well, you guys are really young and I don't know if you should just be making that decision yet. Like, how
Yeah.
do you know? What about you guys? Was there a lot of support right away, or were people
I
questioning how young you were?
Yeah, overall it was fine. Like I think, well, my parents also got married at 20, so there wasn't very much they could say.
Okay.
But I think it was, they could see the connection, and so it wasn't questioned as much. Instead of like, maybe if they didn't know him very well, they would have been like, well, I don't know about this.
Right.
But yeah, no, they really respected him. He's 4 years older, so I think it's made a little bit of a difference, maybe too.
Okay.
He's already pretty established in kind of what yeah, obviously with the rental properties, and had that good financial base, which is, I think, important to parents as well, right? It's a piece of the pie. But yeah, just with everything, I think it's really important in whether it's a business relationship, a marriage, any type of relationship, just to really connect on all those different levels, right?
Mhm.
And I think we just think a little bit like the Cinderella story, like, this will all just work out. And we have this fairy tale idea of what marriage is. But we ask the hard questions, right? Like, what do you expect? What are your goals? Do you want to have kids? There were certain things that were non-negotiables for me, and it sounds silly, but like smoking, I didn't want to marry a smoker, right? And he wasn't. So those were things that, I think you have to really know what you want before you just think, everything will just work out, right? So just to
Right.
ask those tough questions. Yeah. So
Well, being prepared is what you're talking about, because a
yeah,
lot of times
totally.
people just jump into things, and obviously in a new relationship or a new job or new anything, it's exciting and it's fresh, and then when the dust settles, you kind of find out about each other, and obviously getting
Yeah.
into a marriage, people learn a lot about each other as they
Hmm.
move in, especially together, and make sure it all works out. So it's very
Yeah.
smart. I think very smart advice that you sit back and really think about your life goals and talk about it. Talk about
Hmm.
your goals with children, family, viewpoints, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you
Yeah.
find out when it's too late, and unfortunately, part of what leads to a high divorce rate. I think, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, go ahead. Are we gonna say something?
Yeah. And yeah, well, we don't, like, we're not the same people we were, right? And so if you don't have that common goal at the end of like, okay, this, we're committed to each other, right? That's the main thing. Then, things, the boat is going to rock. You're going to change. They're going to change. And sometimes people say, well, they changed, so now we can't be, we're not together anymore. But we're all changing. We should all be changing throughout our lives, right? And so it's having that common goal at the end of it all, right? That there's that commitment, and we're going to both change, but ultimately we're still committed to our goal, right? And my oldest, so my firstborn, she has a disability, and so going through that whole thing again at 23 and 27 was a real big thing to go through, right? To have a baby with a disability. And so again, I think if you don't have that solid base, then things like that can completely rock you, right? So
Of course it could.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I want to get back to that in a second, because now you're talking about already having children and going through something, so important as that. But you talked about prior to this that you were very single-minded, career-oriented. at what point in meeting your future husband did that start to change for you, where you were like, maybe I do want a family, maybe I do want to adopt? Because I think it leads very well into talking about it's okay to change.
Yeah.
You have to change. You have to evolve. Hopefully, I'm not the same man that I was 20 years ago, but improved, and you learn and you grow and you look back at your mistakes, and hopefully you learn from them and admit them and acknowledge them. But what about for you? Like, did you? Because there may be some, let's just you say women out there, because it's coming from your perspective, that are also very career oriented and maybe are not ready to have children, and that's absolutely fine. You found yourself in a situation where you wanted to take a little bit of a turn there, and I assume we're obviously okay with that. What was that process like for you?
I think, again, because I was so driven, I was just pretty like one track mind. And so, dating wasn't a big thing in high school. So that didn't really come up that much either. And I was playing highly competitive sports. I was playing volleyball. So it was volleyball in school, and it was just go, 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 right? And so there wasn't, I didn't need to really think about it that much, right? And it wasn't on the radar. So I think once I met him, then it was like, okay, so besides work, what else do I want out of life, right? And so I think that's where, again, having those conversations, we both came from families of 3, so it was going to be 3 kids. That, of course, changed later too. So never say never in life. That's the big takeaway, because things could change, and that's okay, right?
And what was it like? You have 4 children. And any parent that's out there knows it's a life-changing experience. And there's some people listening that maybe aren't parents yet, but being so career-oriented and focused and future-oriented, what was children like coming to that mix, and how that did or did not change your goals at that time?
I think that life really, I think I look at it mainly as it's kind of a dance, right? And you're constantly, even though you're on this road, there's going to be a rock that'll come up that you'll have to, find a way around, or, you're constantly pivoting and changing, and it's very fluid, right? It's not just there's one path and I can't deviate from it. And so I think when her daughter, her name's Raquel, my daughter, when she came, then it was like, okay, well, this isn't what we expected, but, we'll figure it out. And so it's constantly just find a solution. So when a problem comes up, even now with our kids, they'll complain about something or whine about something. I'm like, I don't want to hear it, right? What's the solution, right? So we're really trying to impart that knowledge and wisdom to the kids too. But okay, now we've got a child with a disability. We don't know what the disability is. She had failure to thrive, so she had to be tube fed for the first week or 2, and then her suck did end up coming. But yeah, every day, okay, how are we getting through just today? Like when you're going through these really tough things in life, and you're in survival mode, it's like, okay, well, all we need to do today is just show up. We need to make sure we have enough food, we have clean clothes, and we're just going to go to the hospital, and we're going to spend the day in intensive care, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were able to support each other through that. And, sometimes I'd be having the really hard day and feeling just defeated, and sometimes he would, but it was amazing how we could come together through that.
Pull each other through. So was it your firstborn had the disability?
Yeah. Yep. And
then, may I ask if you could explain what is it that you're dealing with there?
Yeah. So it's called Prader-Willi syndrome. Okay. And so even though she started with failure to thrive and had no hunger, now it's the opposite, where it's basically an obsession with food. And so she's constantly searching for food all the time. So we have to be very careful that she's on a low carb type diet. She gets regular exercise. And so it's daily, again, it's a daily thing, right? It's having this discipline every day. With her, obviously, it's to make sure that she lives. Because if you aren't careful, then kids can just become, or adults can just become so obese that your body just doesn't keep up, right? And so you end up dying from obesity. But yeah, there's constant, specialist appointments still and different things just to make sure that she is, getting all of her needs met, right?
Sure. And then after that, Was it challenging for you and your husband to decide to have more children after that? Like, I'd imagine
Yeah.
there has to be inside a little bit of a fear that it could happen again, and should you try again, or how did you go through that?
Yeah. So we were told that it was a genetic issue. So it's a chromosome issue, but it was not hereditary. So it wasn't from his side. It wasn't from my side. It just happened
Just
at
happened.
conception. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that really helped. And, all of these things can be blessings in disguise, right? But, it was great that I didn't have that guilt. He didn't have that guilt that it came from him or I, so our chances were just like even more, rare that we would have another child with that. So that was sort of peace of mind that we were going to, have more kids. And yeah, so the next child going into the hospital was one of the hardest things because it's got that negative energy to you, right? Because of what you've gone through. So going into that hospital again was really hard. And just having that, yeah, sadness, I guess. But yeah, no, so I'm almost 6 feet tall. My brother's like 6'7", and my husband's 6'1", and so we've got some height and big babies in our family. And so my son was born 11 pounds,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, a
Wow.
little football player. And so that was just like, it was such a relief when he was born, right? Because you go through so much, and then when this massive baby comes out, you're like, okay, well, we should be good here. And so there was just that sense of relief, and he was a really easy baby. And so again, you go through these things and you're like, some can be so hard, and then yet you can go through something
Mhm.
that's so much easier, right? And that's just life.
That's it. Exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. That's a life. We have
Yeah.
our days that everything's amazing, and a couple days or a week later, you could feel like the world's falling down on you, and it's just keep getting up every day and keep doing
Yeah.
it. And I think your story right there is a testament of perseverance on one of the most important things, our most important roles that we have in life, and that is
Mm-hmm.
as a parent to keep pushing through and to keep pursuing the goal that you guys had of having that family and not giving up. And there's many people that are out there that could have gone through something like that and could never even thought about trying it again and going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are with 4 children now. So I mean, what a blessing you guys have.
Yeah.
As you you're growing your family and you get into the real estate a little bit more. I mean, some people get into real estate as a side job, but it seems like you've taken it to different levels. It seems that I'm learning more that it's really you. It's a part of your personality and
Mm-hmm.
determination to not settle for just being average. As average doesn't seem okay enough for you. You seem to be a
Right.
very determined hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does it shift for you where you're not just out showing houses, but now you're becoming a high level real estate agent? And any stories or significant moments from that experience when you noticed that you were on this right path and you made the right decision to avoid accounting and become a real estate investor and so on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that it was day in, day out, right? Again, it goes back to that discipline. And, I often say a disciplined life is a good life. And we look at it as, oh, that's so hard, right? But if you can work on just putting in, day out, doing what you're supposed to do, you will find that success, and treating people well, right? And so oftentimes I'll have people say, well, you're not a typical real estate agent, right? Because they're not feeling that pressure, and they're not feeling like the greasy salesman type thing, right? And
Mhm.
so it's just, not necessarily doing what the world always tells us to do, right? You don't have to do it this one way. You can figure out your way. And when you're really authentic, then people pick up on that and they're naturally attracted to you. So
Mhm.
just working on, whether it's work, there's sort of the main ones like faith, fitness, finance, friends, and just making sure that you're going to have some type of balance. Now, balance is not 25% in each category every day, right? But, if you are skipping out and not taking care of your body, you're going to feel it in all the other areas, right? And if you're not being centered, and if you believe in God and you're not investing in that, whatever faith is to you, then you're gonna feel that again, right? So it's just looking at, are you maintaining relationships that are really important to you? Are you investing in all those different areas of life? So I think that really plays into being self-employed, or being your best at a job, whatever it is, but finding out how to show up every day the best.
Absolutely.
Just show up.
Yeah, show up and be your best every day. And sometimes you're not your best, but you give whatever you have that particular day is to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
What are some moments through your career that stand out to you, where you started to sit back and realize, well, I'm really onto something here, or there's certain, I don't know. I'm not in your field of expertise, whether it's certain sales or deals or things that occurred that you seem the most proud of from all this hard work and this mindset that you're talking about.
Yeah. I think that just be able to serve people really well, and just to, again, have people say like, thank you so much. Like this was so much easier than I thought it would be, or, we've had a really bad past experience and you made it so much better. Once in real estate, it's really a referral based business. And so once those referrals start coming in, or you get the repeat business, like, I think that's what just makes you feel really good, because you're doing a great job, you're serving people well, and they're not dealing with an agent that's going to treat them poorly, right? One of the funnier moments probably was just my kids starting to notice me on signs and saying, "Mom, why are you on that sign up there?" and stuff like that. Doesn't mean that you're successful, but I think that was one of the moments that I didn't expect or didn't think through that was going to come up. But so then as they're young kids, those are kind of funny moments as you're driving past a billboard and they see you up there and things like that you don't think of. But
absolutely. Now I know in speaking to you that you were part of 4 different businesses, right? So what is that? What exactly is that outside of real estate? As an agent, I would assume that you have a company doing that. What are the other businesses that you're involved with?
Yeah, so I do real estate sales training for realtors as well. So I've got an independent company, as well as for our brokerage, I do the training and coaching for realtors. So again, real estate can be very transactional, and you can get super close with a couple or an investor or whoever it is. Maybe it's not always fun, right? Sometimes it's people who are separating and it's really hard, and they're fighting, or death, of course, if you're dealing with an estate. And so it's not always fun. There's actually quite a bit of almost counseling within it, and just really being there for people. But besides that, it is transactional, right? I might see you now and we'll sell your house, and I won't see you for another 10 years. And so the nice part about coaching is that you get to keep that momentum with people and just keep giving back, and you see the results within their life. And so that's been really great. And again, going back to sort of when I was quite young in the personal finance, there's some of that comes up as well, whether it's with clients as they're sort of figuring out their budget, and then it's like, well, do you need some extra help with this? And so, helping people with their finances is sort of one track, and then helping realtors in their sales. And then my husband has a couple of businesses as well. So he's doing stucco, so the exterior finish of houses. And we also have a commercial poultry farm. So.
Oh, wow. That's diverse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now, when you're coaching or you're talking to people that maybe want to pursue the path that you followed, and maybe they want to, there's plenty of TV shows on now. I don't remember as many as when I was a kid, but it's like every show out there is about flipping houses, selling houses, investing. Well, it could obviously be a little intimidating. Of course, we actually just rented out our townhome and moved somewhere else. So like we just became a landlord for the first time. And I know the emotions that I've been going through, like, oh, I don't know what to do, and finding someone, a friend, a brother that, has been through it and just kind of anything new seems scary, and they just walk you through and say, hey, this is the things you want to do. But for you, in your case, I would imagine people come to you for advice, or maybe someone listening as well that doesn't want to follow the traditional path of getting that 9-to-5, desk job, being locked in a cubicle all day. They want to get out there. They want to be an entrepreneur or whatever it may be. But if it's real estate specifically, what tips of advice do you have for people, whether it's to become an agent or investing, and some of the pros and cons of that?
Yeah, sure. So I think that it's very glamorous, and a lot of these Grant Cardone and some of these guys, they make it seem like it's very glamorous, and you'll see them with their Lamborghinis or their airplanes in the back and all that kind of stuff, and you can get there, but it's really important just to remember that you still have to pay the bills, right? And it has to be your life, not their life, right? So just again, going back to your why. And if you want to own airplanes and fancy cars, that's great, right? It doesn't matter if your why is the same as theirs or different, but just to really go back to the why, because that's going to get you through the toughest times. And so in our market, until very recently, we had to become full-time realtors. We weren't able to do it on the side. So I had to commit, right? This was going to be it. Now, of course, I came from dual income household. And so when I started, our expenses were quite low. We were trying to live off one income and invest the other income and things like that. So I think no matter what you do, there's going to be that time that you have to do things that you maybe don't want to do. So maybe before you become a real estate investor, you're going to work 2 jobs and you're going to hustle because your goal is to own a rental property and you need that extra income, right? So maybe it's having 2 jobs. Maybe it's being a real estate agent plus your normal 9-to-5 job, just in the beginning to get going, right? But I think that's the biggest thing that stops people is they want to work less hours. You know, I want to do something where I have freedom. Again, real estate agent, everyone thinks that there's lots of freedom. We just drive around in cars all day, right? But, you know, yes, there is freedom, but you end up working more, right? And so if you're looking at something like this, like to really get an inside look instead of what it looks like from the outside, right? So you can look at all these really successful people and think, oh, do they even work? Meanwhile, they're working so much. But again, it's like we were talking about with the grit, right? You don't see all that. You don't see the behind the scenes. So it can look so glamorous, but if you're not willing to really put in that work and put in the time and have your partner also committed to your goals and your dreams and how it comes together as part of their dreams and goals, then you're not going to have that solid foundation to get you there.
Absolutely. Well, I think that one of the things you're continually revisiting is the communication of your unit, like your husband, your children, and keeping everybody involved. Because I think sometimes we have our goals and our missions that we want to pursue, and some people don't include everyone in that process. You're like, my goal is my dream. That's what I'm going for. And then you find out that your kids are upset that you've been at work too much and you're not home with them. And then when you do get home, your laptop's out because you have that one more email that you have to send. And one thing I love talking about everybody on the show here is how do you find balance? We all have a million things that are going on at the same time. Yeah. Some people just have a really hard time figuring out how to balance it all because some people are just such good, nice people. They just hate letting anyone down. They have to be everything for everyone. And then sometimes they're on the bottom of the totem pole. So, I mean, I would imagine for you as well that like throughout all this as a mom and as an entrepreneur, do you even find time just for you? Like, like just your time? Because some people like that's a huge sacrifice. Well, like, I want to be a parent and I want to work, but I also like my time. That holds people back as well. How do you find that balance and still, just enjoy life, not just doing things all the time?
Yeah. So I know, so this is where it comes up often, that exact question. And that's why I was laughing is when people say, what do you do for fun? Like, well, and so I think a lot of what I do for fun is actually just being with other people, and different things will give you energy. And so that's what you need to really, again, focus in on for yourself. But instead of saying, oh, my friends are always going to the spa. Well, if that's not your thing, then just don't do it, right? But we don't need to compare to everybody. So just really live and own your own life. But if I'm not connecting with my friends and people who, we just have that connection, right? And it can be people who I encourage or they encourage me in my business or whatever it is. But if I don't have meaningful relationships in those conversations, then I can feel it after a while. And suddenly I'm like, whoa, okay, I need to be doing a few coffee dates. So that's my biggest thing is just having coffee with women who are, either I'm pouring into them or they're pouring into me, and you just leave feeling fulfilled, right?
Well, I mean, it could be coffee, it could be anything, but I think the tip that you're giving out is taking the opportunity sometimes and just take a step back and observe your life from the outside for a moment, because it's very easy to get caught up in it. I know I bump into people and I'm like, it's been a year since we see each other. How's that even possible? You get caught up in life. You get caught up in children activities and everything else that we have to deal with, and then it's over. And every once in a while, you got to take that step back, and even if it's a 5-minute cup of coffee, to just sit back and breathe and almost like hit the reset button for a moment.
Yeah.
It's a really important bit of advice to give out there for sure.
Yeah. And, like we think that it all has to be natural or else it's not authentic. But, if I want to have meaningful time with my kids, then I maybe have to write that on the calendar, right? It's going to be a date with the kids. It's going to be a date with my husband. It's going to be, okay, we haven't seen those friends in a while. Hey, do you want to get together next month on the 17th, right? So just book these things, because when you book them, then it's showing that it's important to you. And
right. And you have something to look forward to also.
Yeah.
But I think people get frustrated by that because you get to a point as a grown up, air quotes, that you don't want to plan everything. You know what I mean? I don't know how it was for you, but for me growing up, you didn't have play dates with your friends. You just went outside and knocked on someone's door and hung out. But everything it seems, I don't know whether it's just me being a child not realizing, or things have changed now and people seem busier and more involved and working more. You have to plan, like you said, a date with your wife or husband, or time with your children, or time for your friends to get together. And I guess some people are very resistant to that because they want life just to be, what it is, and just to be random and not so thought out and planned. But then you also get upset that the things that you want to do or the people you want to see isn't happening. So, you just adjust to a different type of life and different responsibilities, and make time for the things that are important for you. And if you're not happy, do what you said, sit back, have a cup of coffee or whatever you find peace in, and reflect a little bit. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We could look at things two ways, right? We can mourn what we don't have, like I like your example, I wish that my kids just had kids around, and I can mourn that they don't have the same childhood as me. Or, after a vacation, that's very common, where you'll have this like big down, this big negative, and you'll go into almost like a little mini depression oftentimes, right? Where it's like, oh, that vacation was so good, and now I have to get back to work, and I just want to go back to the beach, and it's winter in Canada. And so we can have that, or we can just say, you know what, no, I'm celebrating that I have kids, right? So many people would love to have kids. I'm celebrating that I got to go on this vacation. A lot of people would love to do that. And I'm just going to work hard now so I get that opportunity again.
I love that. You got to just kind of figure out what you're grateful for. I try to say that to people, whether it's a student or a friend, when you're complaining about something or life seems awful or you're depressed, try to figure out 5 things right now that you have absolute gratitude for. What could you be thankful for that you have right now? There's plenty of things that we all wish we could have, but there's so many things that you take advantage of every single day. And just like a real quick example is I'm 3 months out of having knee surgery. And I remember the first 2 weeks standing up in so much pain on crutches, just trying to get to the bathroom. I remember thinking to myself, man, if I could just stand up and not be in pain, how amazing that would be. And then I thought about how many times in my life have I stood up not in pain and didn't even recognize it. Didn't even stand out to me. So listen, as far as I'm concerned, in that moment, I realized if I could see and hear and eat and drink and go about my daily activities without pain, I mean, I'm way ahead of the game, because there's some people that have to face that, every day of their life. So there's so much to be grateful for, even if it's just the sunrise or whatever it may be. And I think that's what life's about is, we're all busy, but just to appreciate what you do have, because it doesn't last forever, and you have to enjoy your life while you can.
Yeah. And just being so intentional every day. Like when you have that moment of realization to say, okay, well, this is not just good enough for today, but every day I'm having gratitude. Every day, I really think about legacy a lot, and every day, who's going to be in my path that I can impact? And if you're actually intentionally watching and waiting for those opportunities, then they're going to come more, or you're going to take advantage of them, right? So you're going to see somebody and say, hey, you know what? I just wanted to let you know, I love what you're wearing, and that's the perfect color on you, or it could be anything, right? But those are the moments, those are the powerful moments that make life worth living. And, that person could be going through, again, just something really awful in life. And that's the beam of light that they needed for that day, or that might get them through the week, right? Or you have people who, they never have a hug. They don't even have a hug in their life, right? And so it's just these little things where, what's the legacy? Why are you here, right? What really matters to you? And so amongst the busyness of everything, like, can you still live in today?
Absolutely. Live in the present moment and appreciate everything that you have, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I love what you talked about of approaching each day with intention. I really like that a lot, because I think a lot of people they don't do that. They just go about their day and things kind of stumble upon them. But
Yeah.
I like that mentality that you brought up, like trying to figure out who's in my path today, who could I impact in a positive way, even if it's a simple pat on the back or a hug or a handshake or even a smile. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that, there's been times I've bumped into people and they looked a little bit upset, and it's just like, hey, are you okay? And I've had people just like almost break down like, wow, no one's really ever asked me that before. And you're like,
Right.
what do you mean no one's ever asked you that before? So we take a lot of advantage of, if we have good friends and good family, of how blessed we all are. And unfortunately, not everyone has that. And if you could be that light to some people in their life, that's what for me makes us and you stand out as a life's black belt, someone that's out there, not trying to seek perfection, but just trying to better yourself every day, and little by little, day by day, just trying to improve and give back as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, you seem to be doing an amazing job with what you're doing. I can only imagine what your future goals are. So I have to ask you, like, you seem very determined to have a plan. What's next for you?
The biggest thing I think that's come up more recently, we have done well in life, and we tackled a lot early in life. And so I think that also changes your perspective and some of these things. But, just to continue working hard, continue to doing really well, but just more impact is important for me. So a few years ago, I started a women's group, and it's called Connect and Inspire. So it's just a community group. We get 4 women to come and share something about themselves. It could be something inspirational. It could be what they do for work. It doesn't really matter. But it's just that time when it gives an opportunity for women to connect. And so we've had great friendships come out of that. We've had, again, sometimes women will come because they don't have friends, right? Nobody puts up their hand saying, hey, I have no friends. But when you actually talk to people, there's a lot of people that are like, I really don't have great friends right now in my life. And again, like you said, we just assume these things, right? Instead of making new connections. And, again, people are looking for that, but we don't know. So if we're intentional about it and we're asking people how they really are. So I usually say to people, how are you? And then everyone says good. And especially in Canada, we're very polite. Oh, God, sorry, and all these kinds of things. But to say, but like, how's your week going, right? To go that extra step. And then that's often when you get more information. So just, again, looking for those opportunities. And I think, again, when you're ready for it, then that stuff comes back. So hosting more retreats, hosting more just opportunities for people to connect, because I really feel like we need that. These types of podcasts are awesome. And it's one venue for people to feel like that connection that maybe they don't have in life, but to take that next step and actually, again, physically connect with people, right? Face to face, shed a tear together, whatever it is, but just to have more opportunities for people to connect and get past different things that maybe they're struggling in life. They don't want to go to a counselor, or, maybe their spouse or who they work with, they can't get over something, but to have that opportunity to, go to a retreat and hopefully be able to, overcome challenges in their life. And we just need more connection in this world.
So your goal is to continue contributing back from the lessons that you've learned in life, as a mom, an entrepreneur, and just a human on the planet. And instead of just sitting back and living it, you want to get out there and you want to try to contribute back and help people around you. And I think if everyone just did that, just try to influence at least one person for the better, try to support one extra person in life. What a more amazing world we would all live in. And this is my whole idea of this. There's so many good people that are out there. It's hard to see all the time with reading the news and turning on the TV. It seems like sometimes we're surrounded by just chaos. But amongst that chaos are just some amazing people every day that are out there leading by example and making mistakes and learning from them, just like we all are. And we just have to love and support each other just a little bit more and send a smile each other's way a little bit more often, for sure. So
Yeah.
Candice, if people wanted to, whether they wanted to learn more about you individually, or your business, or your ability to coach and mentor people on the real estate side of things, what are some ways that they would be able to find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so we constantly have different courses that are going on in the financial realm, whether it's real estate investing or just personal finances, figuring things out, being able to feel not that stressed anymore and just be able to dream. And so probably the easiest would be investorsmarts.ca. That's our website, so you can find me there, or of course on social media. Being a realtor too, I'm sort of pretty available online, and you can find me pretty easily. So would love to connect, just to, again, have a virtual meeting with people, and yeah, just reach out. I'd love to chat and support you.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you're doing, and I think that you need to continue it. I can only imagine if you stay with the same mindset that you have an entire future ahead of you of being able to spread your influence even more. And it's an honor being able to have you on the show and have a conversation with you and get to virtually meet you through the podcast as well. And having two children, I could imagine only what it's like to have double the amount. You have four children, and one that's dealing with a disability on top of that. And I've seen many friends that have gone through life and marriage, and they don't always succeed. So the fact that you've been able to raise a family, to maintain relationships from such a young age, and also to be doing what you're doing in your career is a really true testament. So hopefully there's a lot of people around you that aren't just trying to like blow your head up, but you should take a step back when you're having that coffee once in a while and really sit back and be grateful and appreciative for what you've been able to accomplish, because it's really something special. So if someone hasn't said that to you recently, you're someone very special, and it's an honor to meet you.
Thank you. You too.
Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Candice. I will be posting all of the links in the show notes as well. And if you have any desire to look more into what she does in real estate, or to follow her on social media, I please advise you to look through the show notes and check on any of the links, follow them, and send her any sort of information or feedback you may have. As always, any questions that you have, feel free to contact us on social media, or you can email us, lifesblackbelts@gmail.com. Without any further ado, today's Life's Black Belt, Candice Bakx-Friesen. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.